Okay, so for our clay pot or clay vessel project, you're going to go to our homepage. You're going to click the Project Materials tab. You're going to go to Files, and then everything you need to know about clay is here. So these are just some basics of clay in case you missed when we went over it in class. Just different things to know about how to use clay, how clay reacts to open air. It's not loading for me right now, but just know that it is there, different rules of clay. But for this project specifically, you're going to go to Pinch and Coil Pots. In this folder is every single image in the PowerPoint that you can save individually to your computer. So like for whatever pot you decided to choose. The image from the PowerPoint, I saved them as JPEG, so you can just save individual photos. So look at those as well. But to actually look at the requirements of the project, you should click on the Pinch Slab or Coil Project PowerPoint and follow along with me. All right. So basically this project, you're going to make a clay vessel. A vessel basically is a hollow container that can hold something. So a cup, a bowl, a vase, a mug, really anything. A lot of people choose to go with the standard like pot shape. Here are just some clay tools labeled. Well, we're not in person, so you don't have access to all of these, but in your supply bag you do have the wood modeling tool. 2 of them actually of different shapes, so you will use those for this project. All right, so here are the 4 different ways to build: pinch, coil, slab, and throwing. Throwing is with the pottery wheel. We won't be doing that unless we're in person. If you are just starting this project or catching up right now and starting a little bit later, I recommend you go with the pinch method because that one's the most straightforward. This is the one that I think you should focus on. All right, so here's just, step-by-step photo set on how to make a pinch pot. The walls do need to be an even thickness, around the thickness of your pinky. For pinch pots, look in the description of this video for links to pinch pot tutorial videos, at least the ones that I liked. Again, for each of these methods, as you build, Google or YouTube search pinch, coil, slab, pot tutorial, pinch pot tutorial, coil pot tutorial. I encourage you actually look up different tutorials to see maybe one will help you more than others. But in the description are my favorite pinch pot tutorials. And for some reason, if you can't access it, please message me so I can send you links. So here's another example of how the walls need to be an even thickness of your pot, just so it dries evenly. So yes, because it's even width all around. And this one is very different, so I would say no. Right, here's another step-by-step, just so you could save it to your computer. With coil pots, so basically pinch pots are when you start middle out and you pinch it wider and wider. Coil pots are when you build a pot bottom up. So you stack coils on a base from bottom up until you reach the desired shape and height. Speaking of shapes, here's a photo you can also save for like preferred shapes versus bad shapes of a coil pot, just so that gravity doesn't make it collapse or topple down while you're building, because that would be very unfortunate. All right, and then the last method is the slab method. Basically, you roll out a slab if you have a rolling pin at your house. Again, that's why it's optional. You cut out different squares or rectangles, and basically you attach all of them together to create sort of like a cube kind of shape. Again, to attach pieces of clay, you need to score and slip. If you need a video on scoring and slipping to attach 2 pieces of clay together, just message me. I would be happy to send you a link. Here is another example of the slab method, but in these examples, they actually don't go with a cube shape. They kind of play around with what kind of shapes they can create. All right, and then throwing we won't be using because you need a pottery wheel. and that would be something in class. All right, so what is our project exactly? You're going to use either the pinch, coil, or slab method. Again, I recommend you choose pinch to create a vessel, so a cup, a bowl, any kind of container. Then, after you make your base, you're just going to add some sort of decorative element. It could be facial features, animal features, carved or etched in patterns, really anything if you want to run it by me, and I'll show you some examples of those later on. All right, so what do you need? You need your gray clay, not your red clay in the bag. Leave that alone. We're using our gray clay for this project. You're going to need your 2 wooden sculpting tools and a small container to hold slip. So reminder, slip is that clay and water just mushed together to be your glue as you work, and your eraser. If you want a video on how to make slip, ask me. I'll be happy to send you a link. But really, it's just clay and water mushed up together to make a clay water. The container, I recommend a Tupperware with a lid, but you can use anything like a bowl, plastic cup, whatever you have. And then you're going to need your large Ziploc bag that held all of your supplies, because that's what you're going to use to store your project in so it doesn't dry out overnight. All right, so step 1, you would, with a minimum of 1 page, plan it out in your sketchbook. That's why we have these sketchbooks. So maybe try to copy down some reference images, what your plan is, what kind of pot you're going to do, what kind of decorations you want to add, what techniques you're going to use. I want you to document how you're going to do that. Again, if you want more examples of this, just let me know and I can send that to you. After you do your planning, step 2 is to make your pot base with either pinch, coil, or slab. So just a plain base, it's up to you. Again, I recommend pinch if you're watching this video to catch up on missing work. And then step 3, you're going to add your details. So 3 steps: planning, make your base, add your details. Again, you don't have to attach anything if you don't want. You can just do some carvings like right here, or you could attach, things from nature like leaves, petals. I personally made a different pot and cup with like mushroom and leaves, attachments and designs. You could do features for animals or creatures or monsters, really anything you'd like. One student made, instead of 1 big pinch pot, they made 4 little ones, attached them, made a caterpillar kind of shape. One person turned their pot upside down, cut out a little hole, made a little roof and chimney to make a little house for their snail. So you can really get creative with it. My size requirement is I want your clay for your pinch pot to be around the size of a baseball before you start pinching it into a pot. And I want you to save some for the side for attachments. If you don't need any extra clay for attachments because you're going to engrave something, you can use all of your clay for your project because we're only using our gray clay for this, and I want this to be a decent size. And then here's some examples of coil pots if you want to do designs in coils. And then here's some slab/throwing examples. They did some human features. I thought it was cool to include. So how to store your project between working on it. So you need to store it in your large Ziploc bag, completely sealed, with a damp paper towel, or you could spray it with a water sprayer if you have one. If you're going to leave it overnight, if you're not done with it. It has to stay completely plastic and fresh if you're going to keep working on it, so it just needs to stay in the bag sealed. As long as you do that, you'll be fine. If you finish your project, so instead of sealing it in the bag, you're going to cover it with your bag upside down. So you're going to place your bag your project will be right side up on the table or a surface, but the bag will be upside down as a cover, open on the bottom, just so it could dry for a day or 2 so it doesn't dry too quickly and crack. Then after a day or 2, once it turns a little more dry, lighter in color, you can just remove the bag, let it air dry, and it'll be ready to turn in. Let's see. Okay, so with clay you're not using, so you're saving on the side for attachments or whatnot, just keep it in that original smaller Ziploc it came in, that smaller quart bag. Again, completely airtight, sealed. Because if your clay accidentally dries out and you need to meet with me to rehydrate it during office hours, virtually. So just make sure your bags are sealed and you can avoid any problem completely. I was going to make it optional to get your stuff fired in the kiln if you wanted to drop it off, but we did not get our kiln yet, so that is not an option. Maybe if you save it next semester, it would be. So what is the criteria? Ask yourself, did you plan out your project in your sketchbook? Did you do a pinch coil or slab pot correctly of a decent size? So did you use like a good amount of your clay? Did you add any sort of decorative element, so engravings, attachments of any kind? Did you store it and dry the clay correctly? I think you would know that answer by the time you turned it in. And did you complete the reflection and turn it in? And I'll show you the reflection for that in a second. So really, as long as you did these 5 things, you're totally you're set for this project. So again, your planning, your base, your decorations, did you dry it correctly, and did you turn it in with an image in the assignments tab with the reflection. So this checklist, feel free to take out your phone and take a photo of this if you're not following along in Teams. This is just really important. All right, so to turn it in, you are going to go to our homepage. You're going to go to assignments up top. You are going to click Clay Vessel Project and Reflection. Open it up, and 3 things you've got to do. Step 1, I want a minimum of 2 images. So it could be 2, it could be as many as you want, just 2 is the minimum of your vessel. So it could be front and back, it could be a zoomed in photo and a zoomed out photo, and a neutral or blank background. So like a blank wall, just something neutral. Even if there's 1 or 2 objects in the background, that's fine. I just think it would be a more professional look for your project. Oop, that's a bell. All right, and step 2. Answer these 3 questions in complete sentences. Really, they're not that complicated, shouldn't take you too long, but I do expect full sentences. And then lastly, highlight in each category what you would score yourself in each area of work in the rubric. So let's say you think you get a 4, you would highlight this. For a 5, you would highlight this. Maybe if you thought you were weak somewhere, highlight. So for each category, then you just turn it in. And that's all there is to it for this project. Again, check out the links in the descriptions for the tutorials. If you still have questions or even would like to meet with me over video chat for me to do some live demonstrations or help you figure out something, I really am here for anything you need, so don't hesitate to ask questions. And that's about everything.